This is what we came here to see. Cape Florida Lighthouse. Now this is actually one of the oldest structures in South Florida. And if you're of a mind to, these are helicopter tours that they have of this area. So there's a lot to do in Miami. Okay, so a long time ago, believe it or not, this whole area was a Seminole Indian battleground, okay? The U.S. Army chased the Seminoles all over Florida and had a heck of a time catching them. The guy that was in charge of the Seminoles was an Indian by the name of Osceola. And Osceola was one smart cookie.
The mascot for Florida State University.
That's correct. He is the mascot for Florida State University, but he was a smart guy. He kept the Army chasing him and running and fetching, and they could never catch him. So he actually allowed himself to be captured, I think twice, so he could gather intel and then escaped. So the guy, he was something else. He's a brave man. Okay, this sign here, it tells some history about this area. At one time, people that were trying to escape, slaves that were trying to escape, they would come down the coast of Florida all the way down here to Cape Florida, and there were a few captains of sloops, smaller ships, in other words, that would pick them up and carry them across the Gulf Stream to safety. Well, in 1825, the Cape Florida Lighthouse was built, and that effectively blocked any escape route for the slaves that were trying to get out. Okay, this is the caretaker's house. This is the guy where the guy would stay that would keep the lighthouse. Right here, these two chairs were donated by the American Legion of Key Biscayne. They kind of complete the ensemble of the porch and make it look like it probably did long ago. Here we are. You can almost feel what it might have been like back in the day. Wouldn't have been much to do but catch fish and, you know, have lunch and all that.
Sleep and protect the boats.
Read a book, but you know, you look at those lights they have over there, and that's all you had. There was no electricity. There was nothing like that. If you were going to cook something, it was going to be on a fire. So living was a lot harder then than it is today. Today we kind of take a lot of this for granted, but realistically this was a tough life back then.
And this was the view?
And that is the view.
With no fence.
Okay, now that's the Florida Straits and the Atlantic Ocean. Okay, this is called a cistern, and what a cistern is if you look, you'll see gutters and pipes on the edges of the roof here. Now what the cistern did was, as it rained, the water would run down the roof and catch on those gutters, and then it would come through the pipes and fill this tank up. And this was where you got your fresh water from, was from the cistern. Back a long time ago, these were actually very common in Florida. Not so much anymore. Okay, I'm going to show you something over here. Now you can't do it today because there isn't enough sunlight. But on a day when you have strong sunlight, if you need a compass, the only thing you need is a stick. And here's how you do it. You'll put the stick in the ground and you'll move it until it's pointed directly at the sun, and then you don't have any shadow from the stick. Wait 15 minutes, and as the sun travels west, it'll cast the shadow to the east. And that way you'll know what direction east is, where south, north, and west are. And all you got to do is bury that stick in the ground, sticking out of the ground, so it's pointed right at the sun, and wait a few minutes and it'll show you. Back in the day, the staircase that was inside this was actually made out of wood, okay? And there is a story about a guy who was tending the lighthouse. He was very, very brave. And the Seminoles attacked. Well, he had no place to go but up that staircase. And so up he went. Well, the Seminoles, they set that staircase afire and burned it. So he then had no way down from that lighthouse. But he kept that lighthouse running for a phenomenally long period of time. And eventually, hunger and thirst got the best of him, and he jumped from all the way up there, and he did not survive it. But he kept that lighthouse going for quite some time. Well, Tim, he's the guy that works here and conducts going up and down the lighthouse. He was just telling me that he heard a different story about that guy that went up the lighthouse and the staircase was burned on him and he was stuck up there. What he was told is that there was a ship that came across and shot a rod with a rope on it up to the top, and they were able to hoist him down. But the story that I was told is that he broke both legs when he jumped and he died here. But you know, it's hard to tell when that was all the way back in 1820, 1830, 1840. It's a long time ago.
When Hurricane Andrew came through and wiped everything out, they also rebuilt the dock.
They rebuilt
so
it.
95, pretty much everything was rebuilt.
Okay, cool. Thank you.
And
You're welcome.
1855 was the year it was built?
1855 was the year it was raised. It was built in 1825, and it was 65 feet tall.
Okay.
But in 1855, they wanted to protect more of the reef, so they took it up to 95 feet tall, made it visible out 18 miles.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you for that.
Fantastic. Thank you, John. All right, we'll
See you
probably come
guys.
back
Okay.
tomorrow if we can, but I'm not sure.
Sunday, Thursdays, Fridays, and Sundays, that's open. The morning tour is definitely the best to come to.
Cool.
Perfect.
Thank you, Tim.
You bet.
Now, just so you know, I've been accused of being psychic. I didn't know what Tim's name was. I just happened to read his name tag. All right, so if you come here, you're going to see all kinds of different signs that are going to tell you all about the lighthouse. They're going to tell you why it was here. This one depicts a scene with a battle, okay, with the Seminole Indians. All right. So now the Seminole Indians, they would take dugout canoes and they would paddle all the way up the river, a river of grass, all the way through the Everglades. Now remember, the Everglades today is only 1/10 its original size. So it was huge back then. All right, so one of the other things we learned about the lighthouse today from one of the guys that volunteers out here, Tim, is that the lighthouse was actually apparently built in 2 stages, okay? It was built to 65 feet back in 1925, okay? Then, or excuse me, 1825. And then in 1855, they decided they wanted to make it taller so that you could see it from 18 miles offshore. So they took the tower up to 95 feet. And so that's its present height today, is 95 feet. Now that's the brickwork part of it. The top part, where the lens and all that is, adds a little bit more than 95 feet to it. So it's pretty tall.
Does it still work?
Yes, it's my understanding that it does still work if they wanted to. Okay, now back in the day, there were actually trees here that were called coconut palms. Back in the 1970s, there was a blight that killed almost all of the coconut palms, if it didn't kill all of them. I think it did. I believe these are Malaysian palms. The trunks are a little thicker on these. They still give coconuts. Nothing wrong with that. I don't know. Richard Nixon used to live on this island. He had a house here right next door to his banker, who was named B.B. Ramoso. I don't know if you guys, if any of you would remember that, if you're as old as I am, you do, but that was back in the day. Also, Bob Greasy from the Miami Dolphins, the 1972 team that went all the way and had a perfect season. The only ones to ever have a perfect season were the 72 Dolphins. And Bob Greasy also has a house here on Key Biscayne. There's a little boat for you, just a little tiny thing. Maybe 60, 65 feet. Hey everybody, Bill 1911 here. Hey listen, if you're watching this video, if you're enjoying it, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, okay? That's really important to us. And make sure you like us, and by all means, come to visit us at askbill1911.com.